advantage of the opportunity. But right now is about right now.
The Plan B, Ohio State Buckeyes!
Give everything you got in your heart to this place.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rushing the Field, presented by Xfinity. I'm Nicole Auerbach. He's Joshua Perry, and the Indiana Hoosiers are the new national champions.
Oh, my goodness.
27-21. They beat Miami. We were on the sidelines for the last few minutes for that Carson Beck interception. We watched the Indiana sideline celebrate, erupt. But they did it. They did it. 16-0. The Hoosiers are national champs for the first time in football.
I mean, there's like a sub-storyline here of the Big Ten run of dominance the last 3
different teams.
3 years. 3 different teams the last 3 years. But that is like, I don't even know secondary strong enough. Indiana won a national championship. Like, I'm not exactly sure anybody would have said that they could do that. And here we are watching them victorious. The confetti fell. It was amazing.
It's pretty funny because I did feel like it took some time to sink in for some of these players.
Yeah.
I was watching Roman Hemby, and he was having staffers being like, you just won a national championship. You are a national champion. It's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
I saw Bryant Haynes after the game, of course, dapped him up. I was with him at Ohio State.
The defensive coordinator,
Yes,
yep.
He's the defensive coordinator for Indiana now. It was shock,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, it was just part of it is processing the emotion of being a champ, but like for these guys in the history of that program, I think it's even more that has to set in.
Afterwards on the field, Fernando Mendoza referred to them as Cinderella, and I feel like that is such an important piece of this context when we talk about Indiana, even though this team was a bully against a lot of...
Number 1 team in the country.
And they were the number 1 team in the country, and they didn't lose a game.
Right.
But they started this year with more losses in the history of college football than anyone else.
Yes.
And they just became national champions. In an era of college football, yes, it's felt more open to more teams, but I don't think anyone thought like the worst team in the history of the sport was suddenly going to win national titles.
Well, no, I mean, even with the flattening of talent among more programs, even with the infusion of NIL, and if you have a Mark Cuban type of booster, being able to build a roster, this is not a sport historically where teams are supposed to go from the bottom of the barrel to the king of the castle, right? Like, it's supposed to take multiple years, maybe even a couple of regimes.
So sorry, 2 is not the right number?
No, 2 is not the right number for something like this. And, you know, we'll probably talk about this later. Kurt Cignetti just made it a lot worse for a lot of coaches because people are going to be like, no excuses. He did it in 2 years.
We said, if he finished the job here, we have to consider this among the greatest coaching jobs in the history of college football.
Better than Saban.
I mean, he never took over a program that had more losses than anybody else. He was at places with resources when he won his national titles. Let's start by talking about the actual game itself,
Sure.
right? So 27-21 final. Indiana was the better team, I think, for most of the game.
No doubt.
There were stretches, though. The third quarter where they only had 11 total yards. Miami had 150, and they started to put some pressure on this game. Now, Indiana led the whole way.
Right.
They were leading 3-0. They were leading by multiple scores a couple of different times, but they had to hang on for dear life at the end, and they had to go for it on 4th and 5, and Fernando Mendoza runs it and stumbles and falls and stretches for a touchdown that ultimately held up and was a difference maker.
He's like the most unathletic looking good athlete that's on the field. I mean, we've watched him do this where he kind of has this weird slinky way that he runs, and he's able to shake defenders, run through contact. Ultimately was huge on that play. I think one of the things that's interesting is this game, and we probably could have predicted the way that it would feel. It felt a little bit like when Indiana played Iowa or when Indiana played Ohio State, from the standpoint of it was they did what they did. It just looked much harder than it's looked before. The one thing that Indiana does so well, though, that showed up today, even with a couple of mistakes, they don't hurt themselves, and when the other team makes a mistake, which Miami had a few of, they punish you for it, and that was the story of the game to me.
Right, so 2 touchdowns when you think about it. The offsides penalty against Ruben Bain that extended the drive.
13.
Yep, that extended the drive.
Yep.
I mean, they still had to have a great third down run.
Yes.
But that
gave them more life, though.
allowed them to ultimately score a touchdown, and then obviously a punt block for a touchdown. The first time that's ever happened in the history of the CFP.
Right.
Which I called, by the way.
She did. She leaned over to me and was like, Indiana's going to block this punt. And then what did Indiana do?
And then they blocked this punt.
I will say the other thing, too, critical mistake. Miami has a chance to win it at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And they're moving it down the field. They throw an interception that ends the game, right? Like, they punish you anytime you make a mistake.
They do. And Indiana actually had a couple penalties there right at the end when they
Yes.
could have put the game away.
Yes.
That was very uncharacteristic for them. By the way, one of the heroes of the game is right behind us, if you can see, Charlie Becker.
Charlie Becker.
6 catches total on the season before we got to November, and he has been an unsung hero for this team.
I mean, he's been on a heater, and we've watched him get it done multiple ways, too. We've watched it with precision route running. We've watched him with great ball skills, high pointing the ball, but it's that back shoulder connection between him and Fernando, and that showed up once again today in a big way.
It did, and so we talk about Miami mistakes, miscues, Indiana executing when it mattered most. This was still a game, though, where we saw Fernando Mendoza pressured. We saw him bleeding. We saw a couple penalties that weren't called, right?
Yeah.
We saw there was a targeting that probably should have been called against the Miami defender. They definitely were letting them play. But there was also those moments. He was getting sacked. Ruben Bain, Akeem Messidor. These guys were getting what they wanted to do. So there was part of this game where Miami was adhering to its plan and its strategy, and it was working.
Yeah, it was an interesting game to watch. And I'll say this more of a take on the NFL draft. Like, I'm curious what draft people would have to say about this final game for Fernando Mendoza. I don't think it was necessarily his cleanest game. He was certainly more comfortable when they were running play action and they were in the RPO game. The drop back game became difficult because, to Miami's credit, they can rush from the interior and they've got those bookend rushers, and they made it difficult. The thing that I appreciate that Indiana did was they stayed committed to the run game. Even when they started getting those runs up the middle that were going for 1, maybe 2 yards, not a lot in there, they had to continue to find ways to run the football to be successful in a game
and
like this.
Kaylon Black was really good.
Physical,
he got
aggressive.
like 4 extra yards when it would look like he wasn't getting anything. I mean, he was really impressive as well. And they needed those runs because they needed to have the play action game, and they needed to have their RPOs because Miami adjusted.
They did. They
right,
did.
because for the first half, basically, Indiana was like, it was like a model RPO offense.
Just super efficient.
Yep.
Just anything they wanted. Free entry, too. I mean, Miami, they were giving a lot of cushion to those wide receivers.
Yeah.
And Fernando was just taking what was there.
And it was interesting, too. You kept pointing out through the first half, he was really struggling just with the drop-back pass game and with pressure. And you really would have thought that would have been an advantage with the injuries that Miami's secondary. Yeah, so it took a little while. It took specific moments, really, for those big passing plays. We talked about Becker and some of those moments. But it wasn't exactly like we have seen it. Like, his stat line did not finish the way that we have been seeing it look.
I think it's twofold, right? Like, this is an Indiana team that prefers
Actually,
to
it looks pretty okay
That's
at the
what
end.
I was getting ready to say.
Okay, I was going to say 16 of 27, 186
this
yards.
This is what they want to be,
I know,
right? Like,
and
they don't
the
wanna
rushing
throw
touchdown.
it 40 times, right? They want to be able to run the ball. Maybe it wasn't the dynamic, down-the-field, big explosives, but they found their efficiency, even though there were lulls in the game. They got back to it by the end. I'll say this other thing, too. We mentioned Black. A lot of credit to Mark Fletcher Jr. On the losing side of that thing, because he was toting that like he was trying to put the offense on his back.
He did, and he was my key to the game.
No doubt.
For that reason, because he has been a totally different player over the course of the CFP run. He was very good in the regular season, and then he was like the best running back on the planet in the CFP. He kept them in this game, of course. That big, long run, really huge spark for them when it didn't really look like they could not move the ball, couldn't move the ball at all. And that was part of it, too. Early in the game, I mean, you were seeing 3 and outs. You were seeing just a lot of struggles from that Miami offense outside of Mark Fletcher. And then when Carson Beck needed to put the game on his shoulders, he threw that pick right at the end.
Yeah, and that's a shame for him, too, because I was saying, and it was so up and down for him, and I think that's kind of the story of the career of Carson Beck, where there were a couple of passes I told you. He had the one on a deep over where he put it right on a rope. He had a couple that were incomplete. They were PBUs, but he put it on the money. So you could see the type of arm talent that he has and what he could do. But when you have to have the play, can't convert on the third down, throw a pick at the end of the game, that's just kind of been the Carson Beck story.
Right, and that's part of the reason, like, I've never fully got on board with them. Because I don't trust them. And I also didn't trust them to be undisciplined enough.
Right.
And, I mean, everyone around me this weekend probably got sick of me keep saying that, right? That I was concerned about the number of penalties they'd had against Ole Miss.
I mean, but
the
isn't
dropped
that just telling the truth, though?
It is. It is. And then, you know, I think also you saw on display another concern that people had about Miami, missed tackles.
Yeah. I was up there moaning and groaning over some of those misses.
I mean, and that was the thing. Indiana is a very good tackling team, and even when they didn't get guys down on the first contact,
they'll drag you down.
They were dragging them down. And so they were stopping – they were basically stopping runs from becoming good runs.
Right.
They were really good on short yardage for a lot of this game.
They were.
And they were just – if there was a pass – they were getting them down before the first down marker.
Yes.
Like they were just able to contain it a lot of the time. There were obviously a couple of exceptions to this, but they do all of the little things right.
They do,
and so that just helped minimize the impact.
It did, and it's again one of the things that I think is so difficult in this game, especially in both of these teams were very veteran, right? So Indiana maybe not as susceptible, but consistency. And just doing the right thing, play in and play out, it's how people lose games, right? Just not being able to do it. And they found ways time and time again to make sure that they were consistent. I'll say one of the more interesting chess matches in this game was the Indiana D-line and the Miami offensive line. Because for the first half of that game,
all D-line,
it was insane. And it was the movement from that defensive line that was giving Miami fits. Second half of the game, Miami kind of figured out how they wanted to handle that line. They figured out some of the pass pro up until the end. They were getting some pressure there. That was one of the battles that we all predicted would be a key in the game. And the first half, it went one way. The second half, it went a different way. And you could see it show up on the stats and on the scoreboard.
It felt like at the end, Cignetti was relieved because I think he knew how good Miami was.
Yeah.
Like, this is a team that was more talented.
Oh, for sure. But
than Indiana.
He's had that before.
Yes. And the tightest games they have played have been against those teams that have more guys that are going to be playing on Sundays than them. I want to talk about the impact of this win because we have been talking about it as a hypothetical for a few weeks now. And we talked about the impact of an undefeated regular season, all these things. Indiana continues to check off all these firsts. Now that they've actually done it, let's first talk about some of the not theories, but like some of the main reasons, right? So let's start talking about the average age of the players.
Sure.
A lot of veteran guys. How important was that to them actually getting the job done?
So I'll say this is I talked to Ryan Day after they went out of the playoffs this year, and one of the things that he mentioned was how veteran they were a year ago when they won it and how maybe they were missing some of that in their locker room. You've seen coaches in the transfer portal this cycle value guys with experience and production over a guy who maybe has played a year or two that was a 4 or 5 star but hasn't really done anything. It is important. This is a game, as we've said a million times, where you lose more often than you actually go out and win. And that's because you make mistakes and you have critical errors and critical moments. And when you're veteran, guys just tend to hold up a lot better. When the pressure comes, they're much better. They understand the situational awareness. They understand when to take chances. And that's what Indiana's been all year long.
It's so funny because we spent the entire offseason talking about Penn State because all their guys came back. And we were like, hey, you know what? That might be the common thread. Michigan, a bunch of guys decided to, hey, we'll put off the NFL for a year. We'll come back, and they win a title. Ohio State, same thing. That is getting old.
Yes.
That's old with experience and a lot of talent.
No doubt.
But we kind of didn't realize how old Indiana was.
Yeah.
At Media Day, people did talk about they had the most returning players, the most amount of total starts returning. But, yeah, we kind of didn't put them in that same bucket that we did for Penn State. But that was such a critical piece, as well as the fact that a lot of their core guys were still the JMU guys.
Yes.
And these are guys that were recruited to JMU, either played there or just followed Curt Cignetti up a level to Indiana. Also, another recruit that ended up being pretty impactful is Alberto Mendoza.
Sure.
Brought him Fernando. Brought the first Heisman Trophy to Indiana.
They should cut him a check for that.
Yeah, they should. They should.
But I'll say this, too, mentioning the guys from JMU, I don't think it's just the veteran nature of those guys. This goes back to the old, we want to have guys in a system for multiple years.
Yep.
Right, and I think that's important. The continuity with their coaching staff goes along with
but
that,
I think that we talked about this a lot last year, and I think you saw the dividends even more so this year, that continuity instantly sets a culture.
Yes.
It sets the way you do practice. It sets the way your meetings work, and it just teaches everybody else who's new, which they brought a lot of new guys in last year, a lot of new guys in this year in the portal, and it gets them up to speed a lot faster. And I think that is also partially what helps supercharge this.
Yes, it is everything about how they operate as a program. And to have guys, when Urban Meyer came in 2012, nobody knew him. So that was full reset. And we had to basically spend the offseason learning how he wants to operate a program. When you can transport guys in, they know what to do, and they can be in the locker room like, hey, I'm just going to let you know this is how Cignetti likes to operate, so do this, don't do this, and everything should be good.
Other things that we have talked about as part of the keys to this turnaround, Cignetti himself.
Oh, yeah.
He is a film junkie. We like to talk about that a lot because other coaches watch film, but, that is his favorite thing to do. He's talked about how he just likes to sit in that awful, ugly turquoise recliner at home.
I like the recliner.
I don't. I'm with his wife on this one. That, it's been time to get rid of it, but it's a good luck charm. Now they want a title. I don't think he can get rid of it.
Can't.
But that is his favorite thing to do, and he is so good at, identifying coverages, thinking up creative plays, stealing, as coaches often do from other teams and other coaches, but also very good at identifying the right players for his system in the portal, because I know it can get dicey when you call someone a portal king or something, right? Because Mike Norvell used to be that for Florida State because he had a couple of classes that hit. But Curt Cignetti is doing this with non-4 and 5-star players.
Right.
He is just finding the right players and that have the right attributes, like the way they walk, the way their mobility,
everything about it.
Lots of little things. And I know that's going to sound cliche or sound like something that other coaches can do, but that is certainly a unique piece to him and how this works because of the way that they have found the right pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I think anybody can say that they're a great evaluator when they get the 5-star who's got the skinny ankles and the thick thighs, and he's got the long arms and the broad shoulders and the big traps. We're all great evaluators at that point. But when you can take guys who were under-recruited, 2-star recruits, and you can see what they do well, and you know how to put that into a system. It's Fernando Mendoza is an interesting one because I think some of us who watched him knew that he could become what he has become. But I also think Curt Cignetti understood what type of quarterback needed to fit into a system, and they didn't put him in a lot of situations where he had to do things that were outside of what he was good at. I look at that defense. Aiden Fisher, guy was highly productive. I don't think they asked him to do anything that he was uncomfortable with. The same thing with Isaiah Jones on that defense. He stepped in after not playing a lot beginning part of the year. There were injuries. They didn't ask him to do anything he could not do.
Because they know so well their strengths and weaknesses of all their players.
By the way, that's what good coaches do.
Yeah, and they're so well prepared, right? That's gotten them into. I think the team is walking by their family and friends. I think something is happening. Or is it Fernando?
It's
Fernando.
Coming down the tunnel.
Fernando coming out of the tunnel. He's gotten to change a little. He was pretty beat up in that jersey before.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of grass stains. He had that bloody lip.
The fans.
The men chanting him out how much they love him. They
amazing.
Also played Fernando.
Well, there's Mark Cuban over there, too.
Oh, there he is. Yep. Did you hear that they played Fernando over the PA system? Yes,
Amazing.
they did. While he was doing his post-game interview with Holly Rowe, we are surrounded by people because they're trying to get to Fernando. So we were just talking about him and how Sig identified him, right? And how all of these players are put in positions for them to succeed. They're smart enough to make sure that they're not making mistakes. This is a team that did not lose a fumble since the first game of the season, which is
insanity.
Astounding. We've talked about it a lot. When Fernando has thrown picks, he has responded really, really well in game and had some of his Heisman moments in that situation. But also so much of it, the conspiracy theorists came out because of how well prepared they were. This is a defense that is in the backfield a lot.
Right.
There's not blown coverages. There's not things that you see with a lot of these other teams. And I think it's worth pointing out because you and I have been kind of bouncing this off each other all weekend over dinner and meals and bus rides and all this stuff. I just think coaching is the most important thing in this era. You obviously need to be able to, do roster management and, positional value and all those things that are now tied to rev share and NIL deals. But I think for a long time we have seen some coaches just roll out the more talented team and win most of their games, and you didn't have to win in the margins very often.
So it's an interesting thing. I'll start with this. Our good friend Jake Butt, who does a phenomenal job, Big Ten Network, he said that when you watch a magician, right, you think that they're doing something insane. And in reality, it's just sleight of hand. It's technique. It's the fact that they know how to create the illusion for you. And that's basically what these guys do. You think they're cheating because they're so good at what they do. But when you're well coached and when you're well disciplined, you go out there and it looks like magic to a lot of people.
I think it's a great comp.
It's a perfect analogy. Now, as you mentioned, I'm fully convinced that being a recruiter is a secondary skill set now for college football coaches. You look at some of the staffs that were put together. Guys down south did it, right? Urban Meyer, one of the first questions that he would ask is, "Can you recruit?"
Yeah.
Right? And now the recruiting is your wallet.
Right.
The next question is, can you teach and can you develop?
Also, I'm sorry, how hard is it to recruit when you have lists and recruiting services that tell you all the 4- and 5-star guys, and you're coaching at Florida, and you're coaching at places to get that? Like,
that's what they were doing.
But they don't have a single 5-star player on this Indiana team.
No, but that's kind of the thing. It's like, again, you have to close back in the day, right?
Yeah,
all the 5-stars, but you had to close them.
It's
now
schmoozing.
closing them is,
what's the deal?
Yeah, here's the check, and also this is what we do in the system,
scheme.
and this is how we're going to.
Here's who
and
we
that's
send to
the
the
part
NFL.
that's more important right now is what they can do to actually coach guys when they get on campus, not just recruit players that are ready to roll.
I want to talk about Fernando Mendoza, the sensation. He has actually really captivated the entire country. I mean, it has totally broken through just sports. I get asked about him all the time. People are obsessed with him, his family. Of course, he was the one who had that gutty run, that he had to do that 4th down and 5, where, by the way, Indiana blew, 2 timeouts on that play. And we're wondering, with 9 minutes left, is that going to come back and bite the Hoosiers, that they only have 1 timeout left? So they decide to go for it, and he runs it. We talked about it.
Which was not the play
wobbles.
choice that I would have expected, not what I would have called.
We have seen him do that, though.
I know, but that's the genius in the call, too.
It is. We have seen him run it. We actually had not seen him run it very effectively in this game. And again, some of it was just scrambling to try to stay alive, and he would get 1 yard.
They had a couple called draws in there, and it's like all of that's a setup, but they weren't really hitting.
No, and we'd seen him do this before. And of course it's him. Of course he stretches it out, which will make a great T-shirt image forever, or framed posters for all the Indiana fans and at their homes moving forward. But of course it had to be him.
Yes.
Of course it was going to be him, and he made countless decisions throughout the game to avoid throwing interceptions. I mean, he wasn't really, I don't know, maybe one that was a dangerous pass at any point.
Yeah.
He's just such a smart player. Everyone's talked about that. Everyone's written about that. But I just think what he has done this season in 1 year for Indiana is unbelievable, really. I mean, he was Cal last year. They were 6-7 at the end of the season. He had that great moment, the 98 yards with my boys, comeback. But, man, I don't know that people thought that he was capable of becoming the Heisman Trophy winning, national championship winning quarterback who's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
It's the thing that intrigues me in a story like this is everybody's getting excited because the team is performing. But who is that figure? And not Kurt Cignetti, but who is that player that you rally around and the guy ends up winning the Heisman, right? I think it's so intriguing because part of this is the engagement. You've traveled and you've seen this team, right? You've been on campus during the season, coming here and seeing all the people downtown Miami and then watching what they did here in the stadium, how loud it got. Part of that is because they're we got this dude who we've never seen anything quite like this. And it's easy to rally around a figure like that.
And it was just this magical fairy tale ending for him to win a national championship at home. It was crazy because either way, for South Florida, you were going to either have the Miami Hurricanes back, their first title in almost a quarter century, and the U is back. I mean, we saw Michael Irvin, we saw Ed Reed.
We did see him.
Yeah, you got to meet him. This was a lovely moment pregame. But there was just so much star power. Everyone was back for Miami. And so you're either going to have that or you're going to have the hometown kid who was maybe going to go to Yale and then got to go to Cal and now ended up in Indiana. And he gets to win the national championship.
Amazing. Is there a part of this where, we talk about what's next for Miami? Because I think it's an intriguing build that they had. Their path in this where people didn't think that they should be in.
Yep.
They play in a national title. They do it at home. Fall short, had a chance to win it at the end of the game. Is Miami actually back?
Oh, I think they're back. I think we can definitely say that. Getting to this stage says that. They beat 2 SEC teams and the defending national champs to get here. played Indiana as well as anybody this year.
Right.
I mean, I know it's not the closest margin, but
No.
I mean, we saw that game.
No, they gave him some issues, though.
You saw the bruises and the bumps and the grass stains on those
For
uniforms. So, yeah, no, I feel very good about it. It's going to be interesting to see the quarterback conundrum, I guess, because you've got that NIL deal for Darian Mensah leaving Duke. The anticipated landing spot is Miami. But, you know, do they have to, like, buy his NIL rights? Is there going to be, like, some protracted legal battle over that? That will be something that remains to be seen. But, yeah, I think you got to feel really great about the pieces, and there's proof of concept now for what Mario Cristobal has been building, and he was building it inside out, starting with the trenches, and then now, you know, they're doing the rent-a-quarterback each year, but I don't want to play in this offense.
No. I mean,
and now you have Malachi Toney, who I would put on the short list for preseason Heisman favorites next year. So you're going to get more dudes at all the positions. Not just the offensive and defensive line. Plus, you're also going to see those offensive and defensive line guys go in the first round of the NFL draft.
It's interesting because I do think the narrative on him is totally different. Like, you know, a couple years ago, we're talking about a guy who didn't kneel down at the end of the game, right? Like, we're talking about...
It was all about clock management. Don't trust. He's just a recruiter.
Does he know
just a recruiter.
Does he know when to call a timeout? All those different things. And last year, it was a national title offense, and they couldn't play defense. And now we're like, okay, this guy understands and takes a little bit of time, but he understands how to build a thing that can really compete.
Yeah, and so I don't think they're going anywhere. I think this was still huge for the ACC to get here.
Agreed.
Talked to Jim Phillips, the commissioner, multiple times this weekend, and that's exactly the message from him, that it was just a really big moment for the conference. And we've always said that for them, their biggest brands, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, they need to be relevant. They might get Virginia Tech, might get there. I mean, everyone's going to be fascinated about year one for James Franklin. We've talked about his path to the playoff out of the ACC. But that's just massive. They only got one team into the CFP, barely got him in. Very polarizing and divisive pick. And yet they – oh, we see Fernando again. Hold on. I don't know if we can see him in the background, but that mass of people is following Fernando.
This is insane.
This is actually way bigger than I've covered a lot of these. This is my 10th national championship game. I don't know that I've seen crowds like that around the quarterback, like, an hour after
I'll say
the trophy ceremony?
Is when we won in 14, we had a very unique quarterback circumstance.
Yep.
Outside of that, I don't think I've seen it like this.
Yeah. It's totally transcended the game, the sport.
It has.
And people are just enamored with him. And you know what? I hope he has a great night. I hope he celebrates. He's home.
Do you think
he's supposed to make a 9 a.m. press conference, by the way?
Do you think he partakes in cocktailing?
I hope so.
He seems like a guy who's like a clean living type of dude.
I don't know. So you got to make exceptions, I think, when you win a national championship. So we'll see if he makes that press conference in the morning.
So here's the other part that becomes of interest to me in the grand scheme.
Yes.
Big Ten.
So I wanted to end the pod there, too. 3 different Big Ten teams win 3 straight national championships. This is an era where we are talking about the SEC and the Big Ten flexing. SEC had almost half the field and didn't get a team into the championship game for the 3rd straight year. Big Ten got 3 teams. We talked about this. 3 teams, but really good teams.
Yes.
Very top-heavy. It's been that way. Doesn't really matter if you're able to win national championships. That's what you want to be, top-heavy.
Right.
They can have great teams with great investment from, it seems like every Big Ten team's got a billionaire booster, just wants to bankroll. We just saw Mark Cuban. He's been doing the laps. He's been at all these games. They're built well for this particular time in college football where you are doing everything above board. You're paying a lot of money. You're investing. And now you're seeing a path in Indiana that I think would inspire the rest of the Big Ten.
No doubt.
That there is a path because you can get out of the Big Ten. You're going to have the type of team experiences, resume that you need to go play for the whole thing. But, yeah, I mean, I think if I'm Tony Petitti, I'm taking a victory lap this offseason.
I think everybody should. I mean, if you're doing it right, and we've seen PR come from other conferences that have done it pretty well in the past, it just means more. I think this is an opportunity to really announce yourself as the premier football conference in America. And it's wild to see, and I'm not going to go as far as to say the SEC is dead, right? Like, they had teams that were absolutely competitive, just not the top end of the Big Ten. But there is a moment, and there's a lot of momentum that can be captured. And it's really wild to think, like, Penn State with the new hire, are they back to being a team that's a playoff caliber team? We've seen
Kyle
Oregon.
Whittingham at Michigan.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
Michigan.
an upgrade, we've said. Coaching.
Are they going to be in that spot? USC, we watched them win 9 games this year.
Can they take their step?
I mean, but you start to really think about the makeup of this conference with just kind of the names. Like, if there's anybody else that pulls off what Indiana's done with making a level up, like, this becomes really intriguing.
Does Indiana become a name now?
Oh, they're in it. Like,
I mean, that's what's so funny about this is,
this
you know,
is not
everyone
like a flash in the pan.
No, I think they're absolutely going to be there. We've talked about who they got out of the portal already, but I do think, having done all of this, we have watched people believe or buy into them being a good football team, being a very good football team, a great football team, and now the best football team in the country. And I think that it will sink in, if it hasn't already, this offseason, and then we'll just be used to it more.
Right.
So. I think, you know, like, the fans are insane. They're everywhere. They have traveled so well during this run. Viewership,
got a lot of fans, by the way.
They do have a lot of fans, the largest living alumni base. The viewership has followed. Like, I think they could easily become a new blue blood.
Yes. This is, again, uncharted territory for what the future looks like. We just, you know, we do a lot of guessing and prognosticating. We don't necessarily know. But after watching what's happened here, and to your point, the way that people have responded, they were blowing out Alabama and Oregon. And typically those are games that you get off of and you go mow the lawn. It's winter, so you're not mowing the lawn. But you do chores around the house. Take Christmas decorations down. People stayed on it.
Yeah, because they were just amazed by it.
Yes.
And I just think, like, it unlocked something in a fan base that we really haven't seen. They haven't been good in basketball in a decade.
No.
And they've never been this good in football. I say this all the time, but, like, they made T-shirts for them to maybe win 9 games because that was going to be the greatest season in the history of Indiana football.
How many did they win this year?
16.
16 games.
Oh, they're going to make 16 Windiana T-shirts or something.
It doesn't flow as well, but I'll buy the daggone shirt if I was an Indiana fan.
Absolutely. So that'll do it for here from Hard Rock Stadium. It's been an incredible run through the national championship game. That was one of the best games that we've had in the CFP era, I think, as a championship game.
Before we get out of here,
yeah.
that was the validation. You had number 10?
10.
And then, obviously, Indiana was the best team basically all year long. You got a really good game for the last game. Like, I think for a guy who has been hating on the 12-team playoff, what we saw here did a lot for it.
And it was a matchup that would never have been close to happening in the 4-team era. And I don't think you would have had an Indiana team
Nope.
build and have success in that era either.
Nope.
Too much gatekeeping. So here we are, New World Order. The Indiana Hoosiers are football national champions. They beat Miami Hurricanes 27-21 here at Hard Rock Stadium. Still kind of can't believe it. I feel like we're like the players. It's still sinking in that Indiana is now the most recent team to go undefeated and win a national championship in basketball, men's basketball, and football. I welcome our Hoosier overlords. And we head into the offseason. We'll have more on Rushing the Field later this week, just kind of tying up some loose ends on the season. But this has been a total blast, Joshua. I'm so glad that we were here together in person. This has been Rushing the Field, presented by Xfinity. He's Joshua Perry. I'm Nicole Auerbach. Thank you for listening all season long, and we'll catch you in a few days.